Ochify the Game Business Podcast. Hey everyone, this is Ochify the Game Business Podcast, and can you believe it? It's already our fourth episode. I'm Yuichi Ochi, also known as Ochify, a veteran Oji-san, a friendly term for a middle-aged man with about 20 years of experience primarily in the business side of the game industry. Here, I share my insights on industry news and things I've seen and heard. I truly believe that in this day and age, it's more important to have your own perspective on the world than just knowing information. This show aims to provide better insights for everyone involved in business. But, talking only about serious business can be tiring, right? My friends call me the B-grade gourmet king of East Asia. So, in short, I love to eat. I love to share all sorts of food stories with you too. So, today we'll talk about industry news, plus some gourmet experiences I had in Osaka. Before we dive into the main topics, I have something I want to tell you, so please listen. When I went to Gamescom last month, I watched a movie on the plane called The Legend of Ochi. The Legend of Ochi! I thought, is this about me? Of course, it wasn't my story, but it was about the relationship between a human girl and a fantasy creature, sort of like a gremlin. And guess what? That creature in the fantasy world, the gremlin-like one, was named Ochi. I thought, wow, is Ochi a name beyond just Japanese? Later, when I was having dinner in Germany, I mentioned this to a Russian woman across from me. By the way, she loves Japanese otome games, but that's beside the point. She told me, oh, Ochi in Russian means that's enough, or I've had enough. I thought, aha, I see. It's a short word, so it's quite possible it could mean something different in another language. That's all it was. Just a small story. Sorry, there's no real Ochi punchline to my Ochi story. Anyway, today we have two main game industry topics to cover. Game Business Topic 1, Steam Sales Rankings for August releases. First up, we're going to look at the sales rankings for games released on Steam in August. Not the total sales for August, but specifically for games that launched in August. I thought it would be better to focus on those, given the numerous games that come out. I'll share the full list from 1st to 10th place in the description later. But here's something interesting. The usual Chinese harem games that appear every month, where multiple women suddenly fall for the protagonist, were nowhere to be found this time. Personally, I found that quite disappointing. I wonder if the boom is ending or if it's just a shift, as they've been a staple for so long. I'll be keeping an eye on this over the next few months. Let's dive into the details. These sales figures are derived from estimates based on Game Disc's Steam data, so they might not be perfectly precise, but they should be pretty close. 1. Titan Quest 2. This is a major title from THQ, selling 438,900 units. It has an 85% user review score, so users are clearly loving it. 2. Mafia. The Old Country. Is this the 4th or 5th in the series? It's developed by Hangar 13, an American studio, probably under 2K. Similar to games like Japan's Yakuza series, these games offer a glimpse into a world you don't usually see, which is a kind of fantasy in itself. This sold 399,100 units and has a 69% review score. 3. Warhammer 40,000, Dawn of War, Definitive Edition. A definitive edition of this game was released. It sold 364,000 units. So, as you can see, AAA titles continue to dominate the top spots. 4. Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. This is a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, which originally came out in 2004 on the PS2. It sold 269,100 units. 5. Abyssus. This is an interesting one. The second title from Double Moose Studio, an indie studio from Sweden. It also sold 269,100 units. It's impressive to see how capable indie studios can really make a mark these days. 6. Water Park Simulator. Now, this one is quite unique. It sold 130,400 units. K Studio created it. Kailas, a YouTuber. They seem to have a huge subscriber base, over 10 to 20 million. Wow. It's totally valid for YouTubers to make games now. A YouTuber also created a publisher for last year's Animal Well. Water Park Simulator is a game where you start a water park, similar to Tokyo Summerland in Japan. The premise is that you quit your job to start it, which begins on a somewhat sad note. But you can do all sorts of crazy things in it, like build water slides where people might get hurt. I feel like it has that kind of Roblox vibe, or perhaps a Let's Go Wild spirit. While not limited to teens, I think it taps into that desire for a fun, over-the-top experience that might be dangerous in real life. Something simulator games are always popular and come out every month, but this one stands out as a bit different. 7. Tiny Bookshop. What a cute name. I didn't check the Japanese title, but I just looked it up. It's still Tiny Bookshop. Small bookstore would have been nice, but localization is tricky. This is the first title from a new studio in Cologne called Neo-Ludic Games. Looking at their team profile, it seems like two founders, an art director and a creative director / narrative designer / writer, and one gameplay programmer plus a community manager. An impressive achievement for a small team starting a bookstore on a beach. 8. Bizarre R. This is a deck-building roguelike that looked very fast-paced in the YouTube videos. People love these types of games. This is also the first title from a new American studio, so spots 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all indie titles, and 6, 7, and 8 are even first-time releases. Bizarre R might be an exception. 9. Super Robot Wars. Why? A stable favorite. It sold 88,100 units. 10. Whisper of the House. Another indie game. In Japanese, it's called Yume Monogatari no Machi, Dream Story Town. It's the third title from GD Studio, a Chinese studio. They must love Dragon Ball. They release one game every year in 2023, 2024, and 2025. This game involves cleaning and moving, and it features pixel art, which suits simulation games very well. It looks like a very well-made game. Ochify's reflections on the rankings. So what did I take away from this? While it's hard to judge from just 1 month's ranking, I've been watching these for a year or two now. When major AAA titles are released, they naturally climb to the top, but indie games are also making their way into the rankings, and it's not uncommon to see 1 or 2 Chinese games as well. Japanese indie titles don't reach the very top spots as often. I truly believe that these indie games are very well made. It really feels like a new generation of creators is emerging and starting to make excellent games. In the past, making games required expensive equipment, but now ultimately you can do it with just one PC. There's no need for massive capital investment. And when it comes to selling, well, you just upload it to Steam. Of course, there are steps in between, which I'll discuss next. But if you create something users genuinely want to play, Steam will adjust its visibility and exposure for you based on user attention. It's a very democratic system. If your game sells well, you can definitely make a living as long as you're not a 300-person team, of course. Indie teams are often just 3 to 5 people. Even games that I've been involved with professionally for publishing, which have sold hundreds of thousands of copies on Steam, often started with just 3 people and later expanded to 7. These types of games are constantly appearing. Game Business Topic 2. Don't Ship the Wrong Game lecture. My next topic isn't so much news, but rather a lecture that deeply impressed me, and I want to share it with you. The title of the lecture was Don't Ship the Wrong Game. It was given by Renee from Bip and Bits, the studio behind the indie game Dome Keeper, which came out about 2 years ago. He presented a decision-making framework for game development for approximately 50 minutes, including a Q&A session at Game Camp France in June. And it was incredibly interesting. So what did he talk about? He started by emphasizing that game development as a business requires commercial success, and to sustain that, you need to repeat it. This is the core challenge for an indie studio. He began with the Dome Keeper story. They created a prototype in a 3-day game jam. Initially, it was designed for a 10-minute experience, but people ended up playing for over an hour. That's a strong sign of success. And it's always thrilling when a prototype gets such a great reaction. They then moved to full-scale development, released a demo, which went viral on YouTube, and ultimately Dome Keeper ranked 7th among Steam's global top sellers. That's a huge success. The lecture mentioned it sold over 1 million copies, maybe 1.4 million. I played it myself. I think I first saw it at Bit Summit and was intrigued. It's a game where you defend your dome from enemy attacks by digging underground and upgrading your defenses. It's incredibly addictive and fun. I even saw it again at Gamescom and thought, this is going to sell well. Sorry, that's hindsight, but I genuinely felt it then. So I paid attention and played it. From their experience and others, they analyzed what constitutes a wrong game into 3 categories: undesired games, misguided games, overdeveloped games. I really relate to the first 2, especially. 1. Undesired games. This means games that don't meet market needs or user expectations. In the industry, we often look at how many units a certain game or genre sold and say, this genre sells. That's important, but it's not the whole picture. 2. Misguided games. These are games where the marketing, the trailers, and promotional materials doesn't match the actual game content. I believe most games that get a huge number of wish lists but don't sell as many copies as expected fall into this category. It's like, I thought it would be different. Renee emphasized that during the development cycle, especially during the prototyping phase, you should let many people play the game to understand their experience goals, what truly makes them happy. This is incredibly important for anyone making games right now, especially those in companies planning to release a game soon. If you can, you should implement this even now. Unfortunately, in corporate projects, there's often no step where customers play the game, particularly in the early stages of development. In the past, there might not have been the luxury for such testing, or it wasn't as necessary because the number of games released was limited. But now, it's crucial to let people play it, ideally in the early stages. If both developers and users feel it's not what they expected, you should be prepared to even cancel the project. In the mobile game world, this is done through soft launches. If the reaction is bad, they stop. While Steam and console games don't have soft launches, early access is a bit different. It's vital to get feedback, even from a small community. 3. Overdeveloped games. This is when demand exists, but the development period and budget balloon, making commercial recovery impossible. I've seen this happen too. Money is easy to understand, and numbers can take on a life of their own. I remember Tobisawa-san, a director at Capcom who was a consultant when I worked there, always saying, "Numbers walk on their own." It's true. Sales figures, development time, and costs are easy to grasp, and they can run ahead of things. I got a bit sidetracked there, sorry. But yes, it's crucial to foresee when commercial recovery becomes impossible and to withdraw early if necessary. Developers put a lot of passion into their work, wanting their game to sell, but sometimes even before release, you can tell it's not going to work. I've seen this recently, possibly last year, with a game that's coming out this year. When I saw the trailer and proposal, even though it was still in development, I thought this will be tough. Who even wants to play this? Of course, that's just my opinion, but having been in the industry for a while, I think I have a bit of an eye for it. And indeed, it wasn't as successful as hoped. Key takeaways and Ochify's advice. So, from this lecture and my own deep, heartfelt experiences, I can tell you, keeping things simple is key. If you make a game too complex, it becomes difficult to decide what to do. Renee's company's approach is to start with game jams, even as a break from more serious work, prototype ideas, get feedback, and if it looks promising, move to a demo. Trying to decide what to make or when to release a game based solely on ideas without testing is risky in today's market. I've heard that a company in Korea also prioritizes making prototypes first. Why? Even with a great proposal, you can't truly know if a game is fun until you play it. So they say, just make it. They create a prototype, and based on that, they decide whether to continue. It's important to create paths for retreat along the way. I've been reading articles about startups on Medium, and they often say it's better to make small failures. This means always being ready to withdraw. You don't want to get into a situation where you can't stop. Of course, the acceptable level of failure depends on the company's size. Large companies can handle losses of 10 or 20 billion yen. Recently, even some Sony games have been released and then quickly cancelled. I've also seen projects where a significant amount of money was spent only to be cancelled. So, if you think it's difficult, stop. Oh, I forgot one important thing. He mentioned itch.io. Itch.io is a platform where truly passionate game lovers gather. Comments, rankings, and even being picked up by YouTubers can be very valuable there. And if it doesn't work out on itch.io, it doesn't mean your business has failed. You can always make something new, right? So, what he said really resonated with me. Start small, get market feedback quickly. If it doesn't work out, stop. If it seems promising, then develop it seriously. Create demos, distribute them at events like Steam Next Fest, and get feedback. If the feedback is positive and you continue to meet user expectations, then it should sell well. Essentially, your chances of success increase. While there are aspects you won't know until you release, you can at least gauge that you won't bomb completely. I think you can definitely get a sense of that. This kind of approach is intelligent. Yes, it's intelligent because you gather information to gauge the probability of success, even if there's a final gut feeling element. One more thing I'd add, which wasn't mentioned in the lecture, is that passion and the desire to create are incredibly important. If you want to make a game and the test reactions aren't bad and streamers pick it up, if things are going well up to this point, then the next key factor for making a game that exceeds customer expectations and achieves commercial success is, does your current team have the capability to elevate the game to that level, or do they understand their shortcomings and have strategies or the passion to overcome them? I've had an experience like this before. It was a genre that could sell very well, with initial reactions being good. However, it was a difficult genre to develop, and the team was mostly tackling it for the first time. As a result, we struggled. We gathered a good number of wish lists, but as I mentioned, the final product didn't meet expectations, so sales didn't extend as far as we had hoped. But even that allows for a verification against the numbers. It is about intelligence if you're doing business. The era of just going with the flow is over. Gourmet Corner. Phew, that was a serious discussion, wasn't it? I think it's very important, so I wanted to share it with everyone. That YouTube lecture, Don't Ship the Wrong Game. Anyway, let's lighten the mood. At the beginning of September, actually late August, I went to Osaka for some work. During a break, my friend took me to a sushi restaurant in Tenma. If you know Tenma, you might already guess. It was a sushi restaurant run by a fish shop in the market there. Just hearing that tagline, you know it's going to be delicious. And it was. It was delicious, and the cost performance was excellent. I had a Kensaki squid bowl for 980 yen. So cheap. Then I looked at the display case behind me and saw early season sanma, Pacific sari, nigiri. 3 pieces for 450 yen. I had that too. I love fish so much. I even buy whole fish from the fish market and prepare them myself. That's how much I love them. So while I'm not a professional, I think I have a decent eye for quality and can tell if something's delicious. And this was truly delicious. To have a bowl and the sanma nigiri all for 1,500 yen. That's amazing these days. It was located on the first floor of a place called Purara in Osaka. Their business hours are 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. and they're closed on Wednesdays. Very market-like. Wednesdays are often market holidays. It was a wonderful sushi restaurant. Ending. All right, that's the end. How was this 4th episode? I always try to make the content as insightful as possible, and I think this one might have been the most insightful yet. I'd really appreciate your feedback. You can find me on X, formerly Twitter, at Ochi-Fi. For those of you who already know me, you probably have other ways to contact me, so please send your thoughts. And if you think something I said was wrong, please point it out. Everyone makes mistakes and causes problems. The important thing is how you follow up afterwards. If you have any topics you would like me to cover, please let me know, though I know those can be hard to come by. For now, I'll keep coming up with them myself. Next time, as usual, I'll be covering industry news, but since Tokyo Game Show is happening this month, I want to talk about that. The episode will probably be released towards the end of the month. Today is September 11th, and things are already getting hectic with announcements and releases for TGS. If anyone is going to be at the venue, let's meet up. So please look forward to the next episode. Stay insightful